Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. I'm in Baltimore. On Tuesday night, and as we speak, the results in Illinois and in Missouri in the Democratic primary is still not in. What we do know so far is that Hillary Clinton won 64.4% of the vote in Florida to Sanders' 33%. She won North Carolina with 54.7% to Sanders' 40.6%. She won Ohio with 56.3%. Sanders got 42.9%. Illinois, as I said, we're waiting. Clinton's got 50.7%, Sanders 48.5%, and it's razor thin. In Missouri, Sanders up 50.3% to Clinton's 48.6%. Shall I say that the delegate count is going to split one way or the other, whether I guess it's a moral victory for Sanders to win Illinois or Missouri. But either way, they're going to split the candidates down the middle, which is why we've decided to go ahead with this interview right now, because it really isn't going to affect the delegate count all that much, whoever winds up winning either of the two remaining races. So now, joining us to talk about what happened on Tuesday night, first of all, from the Sanders campaign headquarters in Chicago, is Jan Rodolfo. She's a registered nurse and Midwest director for National Nurses United. In case you haven't noticed, National Nurses United has been supporting the Sanders campaign from almost day one. And in Boston, Susanna Walters is a professor of sociology and director of Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies program at Northeastern University. Her most recent book, The Tolerance Trap: How God, Genes, and Good Intentions Are Sabotaging Gay Equality. Thank you both very much for joining me. Jan, first of all, you're in Chicago at the Sanders campaign headquarters. What's the mood, especially after Ohio? You know, Bernie and Bernie supporters were hoping for another Michigan miracle, defying the polling. It didn't happen in Ohio. What's the mood there?
The mood here is very upbeat, but in order to understand why, I think you need to understand that we came back from a 30-point deficit in the last week and a half or so. And so there's been a very significant change in mood in Chicago. I was out on the phones and the doors today from about 8 a.m. until the polls closed. And it was really night and day from a week and a half ago. And so we feel like we've, regardless of what the outcome ultimately is, it feels like there's been a really dramatic shift in momentum.
Susanna, are you feeling happy tonight? I don't think I mentioned that you're a supporter of Hillary Clinton. Are you happy about the results?
Look, I'm happy for the Democrats. I mean, I'm for Bernie and Hillary. I mean, essentially, I'm for anybody but the Republicans at this point. It was a great night for Hillary. There's no two ways about that. She won big in Florida. Bigger than I think she would have imagined she could do in Ohio, and of course very big in North Carolina as well. And the other two states, as you say, remain too close to call. So it's been a great day for her. And but I also think it's been a great day. I absolutely agree. It's been a great day for Bernie Sanders as well. I think, you know, the lesson here is the stability and integrity of the Democratic campaign, as opposed to what's going on the Republican side.
The Tolerance Trap: How God, Genes, and Good Intentions Are Sabotaging Gay Equality. When I asked you for the elevator pitch of what the book is about, you said that the gay rights movement, if I'm putting, I hope I'm paraphrasing you correctly, cannot be satisfied with, tolerance, for the society to tolerate gay marriage, even to make gay marriage legal. That the issue of radical social justice must be a demand of that movement. And if that's your point of view, my question is, why are you supporting Hillary Clinton and not Bernie Sanders?
I've been asked that a lot. Again, I have to say I'm not supporting Bernie. I think he's a wonderful candidate. I prefer her for a lot of reasons. I think, frankly, she's smarter, and I'm a professor, so real smarts excite me. When she gets in the weeds with the details of policy.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt for just a second. I'm really sorry. I'm going to make a note to my sound guy. And you don't have to edit this, but can you please dip the sound on Jan so we don't have the background noise while
I can mute it if that helps.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can just lower your mic for a sec. Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going, Susanna. Sorry to interrupt you.
I mean, I think there's a lot to recommend both candidates, obviously. And I applaud Bernie's candidacy and all the activists that have been supporting Bernie. And my own partner is a Bernie supporter, and, I still love her. And we very civilly disagree about some things in the way that, by the way, in a way that Bernie and Hillary have. I think Bernie has pushed her to the left in some wonderful ways, but I also think Hillary has an integrity. She has a long history of getting things done, of competence, of intelligence, of a wide range of understanding of international and domestic issues. I think she's been at the forefront for women's rights, and a whole slew of other social justice issues. And I also have to say, of course, that the question of having the first woman president is not insignificant, and it's not merely symbolic. Glass ceilings are there for a reason, and they're about power. And having a woman finally, after 200 plus years of all men, seems to me a significant historical moment that I would love to witness and love to be a part of.
If Hillary wasn't a woman and a man had all the same, she obviously can't have exactly the same experience because women have very different experience. That being said, if a man had essentially the same policy positions, would you support that person over Sanders?
Absolutely. I mean, I think she's the better candidate for, as I said, for a variety of reasons. But, you can't abstract. I mean, it's interesting to me every time I'm doing any interviews about this, the gender question seems to come up when we talk about the woman candidate. So no one says, God, why are all these people voting for this man because he's a man? We've never asked that question. Somehow we think it's just magically happened that all these years men have been presidents of our country, and men have been in the leadership of the Senate and the House and the corporations and universities, et cetera, et cetera. So it is interesting that I've been, told many times, well, you must just be voting with your vagina then. And we never seem to ask if men have been voting all these years with their penises.
Okay, Jan, what do you make of that argument?
I'm part of National Nurses United, which is a primarily female organization, right? A women's organization. We consider ourselves feminists. We're strong proponents of abortion rights. And we would love to see the glass ceiling shatter. But we also believe that it's important to go at the class ceiling. And we believe that women in particular are particularly vulnerable to income inequality, to the direction that our country is heading. And believe that Bernie Sanders is a better candidate to improve the quality of lives of women across the country. We also believe that Bernie Sanders has a stronger position on abortion rights than Hillary Clinton does. It's unequivocal. And we're registered nurses, and so we see every day at the bedside what happens when, while we see an improvement certainly under Obamacare, we see also what happens when Obamacare falls short of what patients need to actually receive health care. So we are discharging patients knowing that they can't afford to fill the pain medication that we send them home with. We know they're choosing between rent and medical care. My background is as an oncology nurse taking care of cancer patients, and I'm really tired of having that conversation with cancer patients that you have when you tuck them in at night, where they say to you once their family goes home, gosh, I'm afraid my family might be better off if I were gone, right? Other countries, I don't believe nurses have that conversation with patients because bills aren't the primary, you're not losing your house and choosing not to send your child to college because you're getting chemotherapy, right? But anyway, so we really also support Bernie Sanders because of his position on Medicare for all, and we're directly involved in over the years in actually developing that position. So we strongly support that and believe it will make a difference in our patients' lives.
So Susanna, what do you think of the argument that Medicare for all is better for women?
I disagree. I mean, I'm an enormous supporter of universal health care, as has Hillary been. I think one thing that we should never forget, of course, there are some substantial differences between the politics of Bernie and Hillary, but there are huge points of commonality and overlap. And I think, one of the critical questions is who is most competent and capable and able and nimble to get there. And I think that is Hillary. I think, Bernie's, for me, some of his singularity of note, to put it in one way, worries me some. That he beats a very singular drum. And while his positions on any number of issues, I think, are very good, gun control not being one of them necessarily, but most of his policies and his politics, I think, are ones I enormously support and that Hillary mostly does as well. But I think the question is, what will happen if he's elected and has to deal with a Republican House and Senate? And how will he be able to negotiate and manage and get through some levels of change, maintain Obamacare to some reasonable extent after Republicans try to overturn it again and again and again and again? There's no sign that they're going to stop. So I think it's about the ability to manage and negotiate the sort of waters of a very divided nation.
Jen,
and I think she's better skilled at that.
Right, Jen, what's your response?
I think that Senator Sanders is very skilled at the same. I mean, he passed a very significant bipartisan effort around Veterans Administration funding recently, right? He's known as the Amendment King, has figured out how to insert significant policy into bills and to maneuver to actually get significant things done there. He's not inexperienced. He's been in the Senate for 30 years, right? He also has the experience of being the mayor of Burlington, et cetera. So I think that he's got experience, but he also has judgment and he has consistency. And I don't see the shifting in position with him. Rather than seeing that as a negative, I see it as a positive. I love that I'm in Chicago and I can look back at his history as a student at University of Chicago and look at his participation in desegregation fight, right? I love that I can listen to him to talk about the root causes of crime during the debates around Three Strikes You're Out and the crime bill in the 90s, right? And I hear him making those same arguments in a different context now, but really the same perspective being applied. And so I think when you listen to Bernie Sanders, you know what you're getting, and there's consistency there. And I don't have any question in my mind that he's capable of being a president that can harness momentum and a movement in order to make what currently feels impossible possible. You can't look at the couple of years before desegregation, and look at how people were talking about it and think, well, prior to changes happening, we're able to make a pragmatic assessment of what's possible. The reality is the movement and the fight are what determines what's possible. And nobody can argue that Bernie Sanders' presence in the race has created a national platform for discussion about issues that we've never seen before, at least in my lifetime, in a presidential debate. And so he's already making a difference in the national discussion and what's possible and what's being discussed.
It seems to me one of the greatest failures of the Obama administration, and I'm not saying it didn't have some success, and the Iran agreement certainly is one, but what the greatest failure is that he didn't, when the Democrats lost control of the House and the Senate, he didn't call on millions of people. In fact, even when they had control and they were fighting for the Affordable Health Care Act, when it came to a vibrant, robust public option, instead of fighting for it and asking, come have 5 million people and surround the Capitol and tell people you want, he was never for single payer, but at the very least he could have fought for a public option. Instead of trying to negotiate with this rabid right-wing party that only wants to block anything that isn't their own agenda, instead of calling that a virtue, that you know how to negotiate with these people. One, I don't see why that's a virtue for Hillary Clinton, other than she can continue Obama compromising away most critical issues. And I don't think it's any big virtue for Sanders that he worked with John McCain to get better legislation for veterans. I mean, why isn't, the answer I would hope from Sanders is, I want a political revolution, which I'm talking about. And when we're in a fight with the Republican Party, I'll call on millions of people to come and support something progressive.
I completely agree with you. The biggest disappointment is that Obama should have mobilized. There was so much interest and willingness to stand up for the change that he fought, that he talked about, why people elected him. But the idea is to work within the structure when you can, right? When you're able to pass a bipartisan Veterans Administration bill, that's what you should do. If the Republicans are standing in the way of getting anything accomplished and are being obstructive, then you go around them with the movement. I do worry, though, that Hillary Clinton would be willing to cut some kind of grand bargain, come up with some kind of grand bargain that might substantially diminish current Medicare or Social Security, because I do think that the sort of pragmatism is a race to the right in the context of so much corporate money and corporate donations in elections and campaigns.
Last word to you, Susanna. What did you make of my rant?
I think he had some illusion that he could actually reason with the Republicans, right, and that logic will out. Now, I have to say, I don't think either Bernie or Hillary has that illusion. I think Hillary has been through the fire with these bastards, and so she has no illusion that they're rational. And the way she has called out Trump, and so has Bernie. The two of them have called out Trump relentlessly and in unison. And so I actually think both of them would take on, interestingly, in somewhat different ways, but would take on the Republican leadership and take on the recalcitrance of the Republican Party much more strongly than Obama has, frankly,
right,
for different reasons and because of different histories. But I think they would both do that, actually.
All right. Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And I hope we can do this again. I think this was really good. Thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.